Hi, guys. Oh, who played in the snow? The snow. A plastic man. His name was what? Wow. We don't know. You guys played in it? It's real. Okay. If that's what you believe, that's okay. What is snow? Yeah, what is it?
It's frozen water.
So if it's not frozen water, is it snow?
No.
Ice is frozen water as well.
It's frozen water.
I don't know. Whatever it was fun to play with, right? Probably not that fun to drive through. No. Yeah. Yeah. It didn't pack very well, like there was no water in it, huh? Interesting. Snow usually has water in it, doesn't it? So was it snow? I don't know. We're live and we're probably going to get shut down for talking about it, but anyways, guess what we're going to talk about tonight? Wow, that was a good guess. What? No. Snow? No. In my message, guess what we're going to talk about? White? No. No, not who, what? Faith? No. Opposite of faith. Fatality? No. Huh? No. Doubt? Close. Close. Starts with an F. Fear. We're going to talk about fear. So, what is something, there's a couple of younger kids in here, but for the older ones as well, what is something as a child you were afraid of or are afraid of? Think of something. Monsters, the dark, Bigfoot, monsters. Okay, so we'll go with the dark and monsters. Are you still afraid of them? To the same degree that you were as a child. What helped you overcome that fear? Praying. The realization of there's not really anything that's coming out of the dark to get you. And I'm not saying that like walk down the alleys of Portland and something's not going to come get you out of the dark, because it probably will, but right. So I have a red cloth here. If I told you there was stuff under here that you should fear, what would it be? Small, but what would it be? You're not afraid of anything? Huh? Spider? The devil? What? Cockroaches? Bugs? So it sounds like fear is something we all struggle with, right? It's a real thing. So we're going to play a game. I need a few volunteers who are going to be blindfolded, and we'll have to take a bite of something I have under my fear cloth. Yep, a spoonful of something that's under my fear cloth. Uriah. Braxton, come on. No, it's something you should fear. It is. Yeah. I wouldn't eat some of this stuff. You still want to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, line up. Actually, go down there. So that way you guys can't see. Face forward. Nope. Stand up against the steps. Be careful of the old gentleman here. Turn around. No, down. Down. Right there. Right there. There we go. Okay. Mr. Man with the beard, good-looking beard, will you lead them out in the hallway, down and around, and back in? Follow this young gentleman here with a cane and a beard. All right, I know you're old, but come on, hurry up. Nope, stay in line. I told you it's stuff you should fear. It's a fear cloth, right? Okay, face that way. Okay, you guys need to close your eyes. I'm not going to blindfold you. Close your eyes and open your mouths. What did you have?
I had salsa and I actually don't know what the other thing
It was just a radish.
was.
What'd you have? Peanut butter? Do you know what you had? Hey, Abe, what'd you have? It was. Yeah. This is spicy salsa. Not bad. You had strawberry syrup. That wasn't too bad, was it? Were you kind of worried about what you were going to get, though?
Yeah,
Why?
because it might be a rat.
But why? Why were you worried? Was it because I told you that you should probably be afraid of what you were going to eat? If I would have been like, does everyone want to come up and you're all going to get a different treat and it tastes really good, would you have been worried at all? Okay, but what did I say? I put fear, I instilled fear in you by what I was saying, what you were listening to. Even if it wasn't a huge amount of fear, it put fear there, right? And that's how it is when we listen to things of the world, right? We can have fear put in us by listening to things that don't line up with the Word of God, right? Have any of you ever laid in bed and been so afraid that the shadows on the walls were going to come get you? Have you ever feared that? It's okay if you have. I think we all have at one point in time in our life. It's not something to be embarrassed about. Yeah? So how many times have you been afraid of something only to find out it really wasn't as bad as your fear was leading you to believe? A lot. Braxton, go sit. A lot of times. Because our mind, our imagination, what does it do? Tricks us. It leads us to believe, when we give into that fear, that whatever the problem is going to be greater than it actually is. But no amount of just saying it's going to be okay seems to help, does it? Like being afraid of the dark when you were younger, just saying, oh, it'll be okay. That doesn't really help, does it? No. Saying, oh, those aren't real monsters. Let me just touch the wall. And then it grabs your arm, pulls you under the bed, right? That's where your mind goes. That's where your mind takes you. Fear is a very real and powerful emotion, and it can cause us to do pretty crazy things, right? People act out of their fear all the time. How much toilet paper got sold because of fear? A lot. How much money was made because of fear? A lot. And people were spending as much as they could to buy toilet paper because of what? Something they were told which drove their fear, right? Did anybody actually run out of toilet paper? Did any of you guys? Well, I didn't, and I didn't panic buy toilet paper. But fear was driving even Christians to buy toilet paper like it was going out of style. People were buying toilet paper and selling it at even more expensive prices, and people were buying it. That's how much fear was driven with just what they heard on the news, right? Huh? That there was going to be a shortage of everything. Toilet paper was the main thing. I don't know why toilet paper would go out of style, but it was going to. I mean, not like people couldn't use cloths and wash them. They used to do that all the time, right? Why? What if I put an egg in your mouth? That would have been cool. A raw egg? I should have, man. That would have been good. So maybe one of your fears today is your future, what you're going to do after high school. Maybe it's what others think about you. Maybe you're afraid of love or disappointing someone. And it doesn't have to be like a romantic relationship, but it could be. But maybe it's fear of just being loved in general. The list really can go on forever. There is so many things that we could potentially be afraid of if we allowed our minds to go that way. So, Emily, since you're here tonight, can you pass these out? Becca, can you pass out pens? I want everyone to write down, don't put your names on it, write down, put that away now, the stick. You okay?
No,
Sissy?
Dad.
Okay. I want you to write down what your greatest fear is. Think about it. Like, don't just write down that I'm going to wake up and pee the bed. Don't, like, really think about it. What is your greatest, deepest fear? Everyone has fear, and it's not something to be ashamed of. It's not something to be embarrassed by. But I want to talk about this, okay? So write it down. Oh. Sure. If you can't write, you can draw your greatest fear. Okay? If it's a monster, just draw a monster. If it's the dark, just do a big black hole. Okay? Write down your greatest fears. If you have more than one, write it down. Something you're truly afraid of. If you're finished, bring your paper up here, lay it face down, and then put your pen on the side. Yes. Okay, when I read these fears out loud, there's no names on them, and I don't want you to look around and see, oh, did they write it? Did they write it? It doesn't matter who wrote it. I want you to listen to them. Don't laugh at people's fears because they're real. Somebody might have what you think is a funny fear. Like, I think it's funny that people are afraid of spiders. But it's not funny to them, right? That's real. Did everybody put their paper up there? Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anybody else that's still got one? Hey, put your pen back. Quit kissing your pen. That's weird. YouTube. Huh? No, I said, would I ever tell you guys to be quiet? Because remember, I was like, hold on, be quiet, I got to get on my phone. Well, maybe I'm starting a trend. Huh? What do you got for that? Okay, so now that everyone's done, I'm going to read these, and I want you guys to listen and think about if anybody has the same fear as what I'm reading. You don't have to raise your hand, just think about it. Okay. Not being good enough. Broccoli. Doesn't matter. What I'm going to do after high school. Failing at the stuff I love or the people I love. And spiders. I don't know, demons. Nah. Being sucked into my bed like a black hole. The Green Goblin. Braxton, zip it. The devil. Disappointing my family, losing the people I love. Monsters and the dark. Something under my bed, spiders. Being found out. Death and monsters. Those are all real fears, right? They might not have been all things you can relate to, which means when somebody said spiders, it's not something, do I want them crawling on me? No. But if I see one, I'm not going to scream and run away. I'll just squish it. Unless it's trying to get my feet, then I'd probably jump up on the couch pretty fast. But how many of you, when I read those, heard ones that you were like, yeah, I'm afraid of that too. Maybe not as much as your actual big fear you wrote down, but you could relate, like, yeah, I'm afraid of that. Oh, I never thought of that. Yeah, I'm afraid of that. How many of you heard ones that you didn't write down and you were also afraid of them? So it seems like we all have some of the same fears, right? You're not the only one that has fears. Sometimes we think, oh, I'm dumb, I'm afraid of this. You're not dumb. You're not a sissy because you're afraid of it. It's just the fear you have. How does it make you feel to know you're not the only one who gets afraid? It's kind of nice to know that there's other people that get afraid of things. Makes you not feel so alone. Is there any fears you can think of now that we should add to this pile? What? Are there any fears you can think of? Yeah. What? Not getting in the NBA. Invisible serial killers. Being alone. What? Out in the forest in the dark. I've been afraid before of being in the church in the dark. It used to be scary. You're walking through here at night by yourself, and you hear something creak over here, and you're like, okay, who's still in the church? Fear can get you anywhere and anything. What? Heaven? Maybe you're afraid you're not going to make it to heaven. Vampires? So the list of fears can change as you get older and depending on where you live, right? Like, there's some places in the world, not here in Tillamook but that worry about getting beaten up while they're walking down the sidewalk, getting murdered, wondering what they'll eat, having fear of not eating tomorrow. They worry about bombs going off in their living rooms, missiles coming through, people with guns breaking through their doors. Yeah. For them, fear is all day, every day, because it's the fear of death. They don't know if they'll wake up. Well, none of us know if we'll wake up, but their fear is that they'll get killed in the middle of the night. Could you imagine, what do you feel like when you get afraid? Like when you truly are afraid, what happens to your body? What do you feel? Say it. Shakes? We're not in school. You don't have to raise your hands. Anybody else? Yeah, you feel alone, kind of blank out, cry, don't know what to do with yourself, sweaty palms, your heart starts racing, adrenaline, you might want to fight, you might want to run away, you might stop and just stand there and cry. Yeah. So could you imagine waking up every day and having that level of fear to where you're always shaky, you're always afraid you're going to get killed, you're always not knowing if you should hide or if you should fight every single day of your life? Could you imagine that type of fear? Your stomach can get queasy. You almost feel sick to your stomach, like you're going to throw up. Each of us responds to fear in different ways. Some freeze, some run, some fight. But we all know what it's like to be afraid, right? It can actually be paralyzing. Has anybody been so afraid you feel like you can't move? I have. Yeah. I had a cougar stalk me one time in the woods. Yeah, and I didn't know until I turned around and I was walking through the snow on Highway 6 up at the top, Hembry maybe. Anyways, I was following a herd of elk down this old elk trail, and it was snowing, and I was getting dark, and I knew I was going to have a long hike back, so I turned around and started walking back, and about 15 feet behind me there was cougar tracks right next to where I was walking. I never saw it. I could never find it. I had a choice. Was I going to freeze, literally because it was snowing, or was I just going to stand there and hope to shoot it before it attacked me, or was I going to run back to the pickup, lock my doors, start the heater up, and cry? No, I did that last one, actually. That was scary to me, not knowing you're being stalked by something that can kill you in an instant. Yeah, because I made it there safe. I didn't think I was going to make it back to the truck alive. Actually, it was a Jeep, but... 10 years ago. Or I stopped and turned around, so it jumped off into the timber somewhere to watch me. I didn't stop to look back to see if it was still following me. I just took off. I actually fired my rifle one time and then took off running. I don't know. I never saw it. And sometimes that's the biggest fears we have, are the things we can't see. Bigger than my hand. Yeah, it was a big paw print. No, not that big. Like, I could put my hand inside it. Because cougar tracks are, when you know tracks, when you see them, you know. It's kind of like a cat track, but 10 times bigger. Yeah. So, everyone has things that they're either afraid of or can bring fear into their life in an instant, right? Just like that, I wasn't afraid while I was walking down, but when I turned around and saw what was behind me or had been, that struck fear into me. So, with that, can you imagine that the Bible actually talks a lot about fear? Isaiah 41, 9 through 10 says, I took you from places far away on earth, and I called you from a faraway country. I said, you are my servants. I have chosen you and have not turned against you, so do not worry, because I am with you. Do not be afraid, because I am your God. I will make you strong and I will help you. I will support you with my right hand that saves you. So, what is that scripture telling us about fear? To not be afraid. Is it saying, hey, you're an idiot if you're afraid? No, it's not. God is literally saying, hey, I know you're going to be afraid, so I'm telling you, don't worry. If somebody says, I'm afraid, do you say, don't be afraid? Or you're like, hey, it's going to be okay. Don't worry. We got this. You talk them through it, right? That's exactly what God's doing. He says, I've chosen you and I've not turned against you, so don't worry because I am with you. Don't be afraid because I am your God. He's walking you through how to not be afraid. 41, 9 through 10. He reminds us that he is with us, and he tells us not to fear. Why? Why should we not fear? I just read it. Because he's with us. Is God always with us or just sometimes? What if you turn your back on him? He's always there no matter what. What if you just walk head forward into sin? Where's he at? He's not like a mile back down the road? There's no crying. It's okay. It doesn't matter. Could be mine, could be your guys's. Doesn't matter. There's no crying, so. That could have drove fear, right? If there would have been bloody murder screaming, all the things that run through your head as a parent, as a brother or sister, right? Our siblings can drive fear into us. Braxton and Sissy getting lost in the store. That rises fear up in me sometimes. Yep. Yep. So, says God is with us. And not only that, he will strengthen us. As if his presence is with us, and that's not enough, he also gives us strength. So instead of just his presence here, he says, I give you strength. God knows that we'll be afraid, and over again in Scripture, he reminds us, do not be afraid, do not fear. So think about the things you wrote down on these papers. They are real fears. They're real. Those are your emotions. Those are your feelings. And they're real. But now picture those situations with God right next to you, standing there. If you could see God in the dark right next to you, would you be afraid? No. You'd be like, if somebody came out, you'd be like, yeah, I got this guy with me. Well, guess what? He's there. And that doesn't mean be dumb and go into the dark where you know bad things might happen. There's a difference between being cautious and smart and being fearful. Okay? All of these things here, everything you guys wrote down and I wrote down, we don't have to be afraid of them because God is with us. And even the people that live in different countries and have to deal with the war and all those fears, they don't have to because God's promise is true to them as well. What happens when we die? What happens? We go to heaven. Is that something to be afraid of? No. Is it going to stink to die for me? Yeah, it would stink because my kids wouldn't have their dad. But I'm not afraid of dying. I don't think I've ever been afraid of dying, which has led to some dumb choices. So God is greater than all of our fears. All of these fears, everything. He's greater than that, right? So why do we have fear? Why do we fear those things? Because we get inside our own heads and we forget the promise that God has given us. We let the enemy get in there and start putting lies in there. Watching stuff on TikTok about the snow. I even showed you guys, it didn't melt. It just crackled and burned. Right? That can drive a lot of people into fear. Fear that the government is trying to kill us and they're coming for us and they're coming for our guns, which they are. But do we need to be afraid of that? No. Why? God is with us. It doesn't matter what we're going through. It could be really terrible. We could go to war. We could have people invade Tillamook and try to kill us. But you still don't have to be afraid because God is with us. And in the end, when we die, where do we go? And if you're afraid of dying, it's probably because you're afraid that you don't know where you're going. And if you're afraid of that, then you need to, how do you say that? Check yourself. Because that means your relationship with God is not right if you're afraid if you die you won't go to heaven. And that's not a shame on you. You're afraid of that. That's a, I worry about you. I worry about you. I'm concerned for you. I have people in my life. I don't know if they'll go to heaven if they died today. They think they will. But when you're on the outside looking at different people, you can see the sin that people live in, right? It's not our job. I heard this the other day, and I think I said it maybe one sermon, but did God send his own son to condemn us? Then is it our job to do that? No. But too many times Christians like to condemn other people because they're living in sin. If Jesus wasn't sent to do that, I really doubt God said, hey, Emily, you should condemn anybody that's living in sin. Right? He didn't tell me to do that because I've lived in sin. So when you see people that are living in sin, what do you need to do? Huh? Pray for them. If you can reach out, but not in a condemning way, in a loving way. And don't be like, hey, Becca, I see you're sinning because the Bible told me you are. You know, just, hey, how's your relationship with God? You know, do you go to church? If you know they go to church, just, and they're open to talk, be like, hey, how's your relationship with God? You know, I was thinking about this the other day, or I heard it in youth group. You know, if I died tonight, would I go to heaven? You know, do you know the answer to that? You know, if you died, talking to your friend. Do you know you would go to heaven? I know tonight that I would go to heaven. Do you, Uriah? You do? Good. Those are real questions you can ask people in love. And they might get defensive. And you know why people get defensive when you ask questions like that? Because they know they're living in sin. People don't like to have those conversations when they're living in sin because they feel convicted. And conviction brings up fear. Fear brings out what? Fight, flight, or what? Freeze. Huh? Suicide? Yeah. Fear. Fear can bring suicide. Depression. Fear leads to all of that. The fear of not fitting in. The fear of being rejected. The fear of not being loved. Those all lead down that road to depression, which can lead to suicide. Okay, I'm going to read these, and I want you to say after every one, do not fear, God is with us, okay? What do you say? Okay. Fear of death. I can't hear you. No, you say, do not fear, God is with us, okay? Fear of death. And remember, these are real fears that you guys in here are feeling. The fear of being found out. Something under my bed. The dark. Disappointing my family and losing the people I love. The devil. Broccoli. Being sucked into your bed. What am I going to do after school and failing at the stuff I love or the people I love? Spiders. The Green Goblin. Not being good enough. If those are all things you don't have to be afraid of, and you can think of more, say that when you think of those fears, when they come up. Tell yourself you don't have to fear because God is with you. Excuse me. How does it make you feel knowing that God is with you? That's right. How does it make you feel knowing that you don't have to fear because God is with you? Good right now, but what happens when that fear comes up? Are you going to, there you go, are you going to forget though and go back to, oh, I have to be afraid of this? No, get that scripture and get it memorized in your head. And there's another one. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of what? That's a couple of scriptures together. But that's true. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. When you are in your word, you will have a sound mind. Okay? All right, that's it. Yep. Do you have to be afraid of stuff? Why? God is with us.